Let's talk about your financial set point to figure out how you're currently wired. And then I'm going to guide you in beginning to transform your current wiring using EFT tapping. And I promise you, by the time we're done, you're going to be going, oh, I see why this is different. Because I want you to actually feel a difference in your body and mind and not just understand it intellectually. We're going to cover two main areas for transformation today that impact your financial set point. The first one has just a huge impact on you day to day and can either be the jet fuel that pushes you forward down the runway or the tar that keeps you stuck with your wheels turning on the runway trying to take off. So you need to understand how to make this your jet fuel. The second one, if we're using the same plane metaphor, is the engine that drives you forward. If it's not working right, you're never getting off the ground. So let's start with number one. Now remember, your financial results are driven by the daily habits and actions that you take. So it's easier to understand this when it comes to our health. So for example, if you eat junk food and don't exercise 5 days a week for 7 weeks, you'll get a radically different result than if you eat well and exercise 5 days a week for 7 weeks. I don't think anybody would argue that. Again, it's the same with our money and wealth. What we do daily, the decisions we make and the actions we take drive our results with our money and wealth. So does that make sense? So the first thing we're going to talk about, remember, this is either the jet fuel that helps you to take off, or it's the tar that prevents your tires from spinning on the runway. Number one is your habitual daily emotions. These are the regular emotions that we experience every day. The most common negative ones are stress, worry, anxiety, overwhelm, fear, anger, sadness, guilt, shame. Those are just some of the common ones. These negative emotions massively impact our focus, our energy, our decision making, our sleep, which again impacts our energy, our communication. They really affect everything. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, yeah, but emotions like stress are a part of life. So how does that matter? So some stress is okay. Some negative emotions are okay. We're of course going to experience ups and downs in life. But what we're talking about are our habitual daily emotions that matter. Are you visiting those emotions or are you living there? Right? It's okay to feel stressed or anxious or worried or overwhelmed, but are you living in those emotions regularly for long periods of time? We all know probably too well what being stressed out feels like. What we don't always know is what happens to our brains when we're stressed, and that's what we're going to discuss here. So do you ever notice how you freeze at stressful moments? Like when you get when you get up to give a presentation and suddenly forget everything you've been studying or practicing, or when you're in a meeting and your boss criticizes you in front of the entire room. Thanks, right? Or even something simpler like when you look at a stack of bills or you sit in front of the computer with an enormous amount of tasks in front of you. Do you ever notice how at those exact moments, it's like you suddenly can't think? How you forget things you know really well? How solutions to problems that later seem so simple feel impossible when you're first confronted with that stressful situation? That's because when stress hits, your body goes into what's called fight or flight. Now, you might have heard about this before, especially if you've seen some of the videos we've released in the past, where we like to cover this concept, where we talk about fight or flight and freeze, fawn, or flop. But here in this presentation, I'm going to make some really important connections for you between this fight or flight response and your financial situation, right? That's what we're here to talk about. In fight or flight, large parts of your brain actually shut down. When you need it most, critical sections of your brain literally go on strike. Thanks a lot, right? To make matters even worse, when you go from fight or flight into a freeze state, your body is effectively storing the stress of that moment literally in our bodies. So here's how it works. Something stressful happens, or you start thinking about something stressful, like the fact that no matter how hard you work, you always seem to find yourself struggling to pay your bills, or how unfulfilled you are in your current endeavors, or just simply how much you have to do. So within seconds, the part of your brain called the amygdala, which is the almond-shaped part of your midbrain, tells your body to release stress hormones. Adrenaline and cortisol, which is often called the stress hormone, floods your body, and it starts to shut down the creative problem-solving parts of your brain. It's slowing down your digestion, making you put on weight. Thanks a lot for that as well. Constricting blood vessels, and a whole bunch of other things as well. This means your stress is now physical. It's controlling how you think, how your body and brain function, how creative you can be, how quickly your brain can react to a given situation. In fight or flight, stress is literally limiting what you're capable of achieving. So that big presentation you need to ace to get that big promotion and raise at work, It may not go so well if your stress level is that high. So that to-do list that you want to power through and that you're ready to go at, that is overwhelming you, that list that is overwhelming you to the point where you don't even know where to start because of the overwhelm and that stress. You're not thinking as clearly, you're making poor decisions, and things seem to take forever and you just don't take action. The communication in the office with your coworkers or your boss or employees or the networking outside the office, you struggle with it because you feel the stress that you're feeling, oftentimes with social anxiety. When you're under chronic stress, whether it's caused by your money situation or your career or any other area of your life, like your relationships, health, kids, or what's going on in the world, whatever it is, you're never able to think with your full brain or use the full power of your problem-solving abilities or your memory properly, right? So it takes away those resources. So have you ever had it happen that you get into an argument with someone, especially if it's your spouse, and I'm talking from experience here, and then you just have to go to work? Are you effective with your work, or do you sit there running through thoughts in your head? Or when you had a tough day and you're worried about something, are you able to fall asleep easily, or does your mind race and race, keeping you up all night? All of these limitations actually make perfect sense when you understand what the fight or flight response was actually meant for. Fight or flight was originally intended to protect us from imminent danger, like being suddenly face to face with a tiger in the wild. In that case, fight or flight would help you, allowing you to run faster and making you unusually strong so you can better defend yourself from attack. What it doesn't help you to do is to deal with the endless demands of modern life. Our brains are not wired for our modern life. What it doesn't help you to do is to solve problems or figure out a way to fix self-defeating and other negative patterns in your life. So when it comes to changing your financial experience, stress, particularly chronic stress, is a liability, something that's costing you, preventing you from being successful. And remember, we're talking about our habitual emotions. So when you think about your life right now, what emotions are you feeling most often, especially when it comes to your work, or business or career? So to get the full picture of how badly the fight or flight response limits your potential, imagine trying to figure out how to grow your business or get that big promotion while trying to escape a tiger attack. So picture yourself running as fast as you can, desperately trying to outrun the tiger who's chasing you at lightning speed, teeth bared. Your heart is beating at top speed and all you can do is run, right? You've never run this fast in your entire life because there's a tiger chasing you. It's sheer terror driving you because you know the tiger is that close. You know he's after you and you can hear how fast he's coming at you. The only thing you know is that you definitely can't slow down. Okay. Now picture me running at your side while you're being chased by the tiger, asking you about your best ideas for fixing a challenge with your work or money problems or creating your next project or vision. Maybe it's not the best time for that conversation, right? But then days or weeks later, when you're back at home after surviving the tiger encounter, you're in the shower, and let's say you suddenly get this great idea. It's such a good idea. You're kind of impressed with yourself, right? It's the best idea you've had in months, maybe in years. Right away, you know it's the solution. It's how you can make more money or advance in your career or make your business more profitable to take you to that next financial level. It's how you can get to becoming more fulfilled. It's how you can get things done. It's how you can stop procrastinating. It's everything you wanted in an amazing idea. And that seemed so easy, right? The idea just came to you, as they say, out of nowhere. It's not magical, actually. It's because at that moment, while you were safely enjoying a hot shower without the tiger chasing you, you were able to relax, which means your brain, including your frontal lobe, your creative problem-solving center, was operating at full capacity, allowing you to solve problems that seemed impossible when you were in fight or flight, running from that tiger. And hot showers are great, of course. We have amazing ideas in the shower, but it's not the most reliable way to solve your money issues. Tapping, of course, is a much quicker, infinitely more reliable way to reduce your stress and get the full benefit of your brain's capacity on an all-day, everyday basis. You don't have to wait for the perfect moment of relaxation. You can use tapping to put your body and brain in that fully operational state right away, right when something stressful happens. To illustrate just how powerful tapping is, let me quickly share a research study that proves why it is faster and more effective than other techniques, including hot showers, although that wasn't in the study. So in a landmark study in 2012 with Dr. Dawson Church that was later reproduced and confirmed in 2020 with Dr. Petta Stapleton, they looked to see how EFT tapping influences the stress hormone known as cortisol. As I mentioned before, cortisol is known as the stress hormone. So in both of these studies, they measured cortisol in the saliva, and they broke the participants into 3 groups: one that would do EFT tapping, one that would do psychoeducation, and one that would read magazines. So after one treatment of each of these techniques, the group that read magazines had a 2% increase in cortisol. So they were more stressed. The group that did psychoeducation had a decrease in cortisol of 19%. So they improved. The group that did EFT tapping had a decrease of 43%. This is with cortisol measured in the body. So cortisol went down at more than twice the rate of psychoeducation. But the reality is, in our lives, we're really doing the equivalent of what the first group did, reading the magazines or worse, because we watch the news or go on social media or binge watch, shows and have things that cause us more stress. So the stress builds and builds and keeps us from doing the things we want to do. But when you take the time to do the tapping, your cortisol levels, essentially your stress levels, go down significantly. It's why every morning I open up my planner, my tapping solution planner that I designed, and I ask myself what I'm feeling. Because if I have any negative emotions that I'm feeling, any anger or resentment or jealousy or stress, anxiety or overwhelm, I need to deal with it right then to get my brain back to where it needs to be. I use the tapping every morning to release negative emotions and wire in the positive emotions that I want to feel. Because joy and happiness and gratitude and excitement, those emotions are the jet fuel that drive you forward. Let me ask you, have you ever been in just a magical flow state where the ideas are flowing and your energy is bursting, and then at other times thought, why am I struggling so much? The more you can control your emotional state and the habitual emotions you feel, the more you can drive your financial life forward, because you will make better decisions and take more consistent actions towards your goals. And understanding this is critical, because oftentimes we can't see beyond our current financial set point. We think, but how am I going to be more productive or make better decisions or be more successful through my emotions? And this is key. If you haven't taken any notes yet, write this down, please. The quality of your life is directly dictated by the quality of your emotions. Let me say it again. The quality of your life is directly dictated by the quality of your emotions. Your mental and emotional state is the single most important ingredient, not only to financial success, but personal fulfillment. And most people don't know how to manage it, and certainly don't know how to change it, which is what tapping can do so beautifully. And so for those of you also who love the law of attraction, as I do, another way to think about this is that what you consistently think about and feel about comes about. This is one of the guiding principles of the law of attraction. But whether you think about it from a neurology and a science perspective or a law of attraction perspective, your emotions matter. So let's jump in and have an experience of tapping, because I want to show you how you can transform your emotions in just minutes with tapping. But before we do that, I want to show you a 60-second clip of my brother Nick in case you're new to tapping. Check this out.
So tapping, otherwise known as EFT or Emotional Freedom Technique, is a technique that combines ancient Chinese acupressure and modern psychology. And we call it tapping because we are literally tapping on endpoints of meridians of our body while saying certain statements. It's certainly a funny looking technique. I felt it was funny and strange when I first discovered it, but it is so powerful on everything from pain relief to financial issues to weight loss issues to limiting beliefs about yourself, about your life, to just overall stress. Tapping is proving to be extraordinarily effective. And it works. What the latest research has shown is that it works because as we tap on these endpoints of meridians while focusing on the stressful issue, the challenge, whatever's going on in our life, we actually send a calming signal to the amygdala in the brain. The amygdala is that very ancient fight or flight response center in the brain. So we are in essence desensitizing ourselves to the stress, turning off that amygdala, turning off that stress signal, rewiring the way the brain works, the way the limbic system reacts, the way the whole body reacts to the stressful challenge.
So as Nick stated, what tapping does so powerfully, as the science and research shows, is it calms the amygdala, takes you out of fight or flight, and allows you to better access your prefrontal cortex. There are over 300 studies on tapping and why it works. I quickly shared one research study on stress a moment ago, but there are studies on a wide variety of topics such as sleep, food cravings and weight loss, physical pain, trauma, mental health, gene expression. You heard that right, gene expression, and so much more. Now, I'm not going to go into all those research studies because it would take me literally hours. And in fact, I do have a 40-minute video on YouTube just on about 10 different studies. So imagine what it would take me to go through 300 of them. So more importantly, what I want to do right now is to tap together. And don't worry about doing it perfectly. If you're new, just follow along, tap where I tap, and repeat what I say. And if you've done tapping before, you're going to get lots of benefit out of this. Don't worry. So let's start by doing some very general tapping on a topic that is stressing you out most. So take a second and ask yourself, when it comes to money, finances, your career, your work, etc., what's stressing you out the most? Take a few seconds and think about it. So think about the money you have in your bank account, and think about the money you have coming in or not coming in, and the bills you have that are coming up. Think about your job and your career. What stresses you out there? Think about that. Do you like your boss? Do you like your employees if you are the boss? Do you like what you're doing? Do you like the people you're working with, your colleagues? Think about how you feel about money and its effect on your life. So take a few more seconds and think about all that and really feel it in your body. Think about what you feel about money. Okay, so did you think of something that's causing you stress the most? What's causing you stress the most around money? Now, when you think about this issue or event or emotion, whatever it is that came up, give it a number on a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is no intensity, and 10 being it's the highest intensity possible. So if it was you're stressed, it's a 10 is really, really stressed. So if you're thinking about how massively stressed you are about an upcoming bill, for example, you might say it's a 7 or 8. Or if you're worried about the direction your career is taking you and are feeling unfulfilled and stressed out, it might be a 6. With tapping, it's really important to get specific. Although as we go through the tapping, I'll use more general language simply because we have a lot of people tapping together on different issues, but we're going to get to your specific issue and how you do it. Okay, so do you have that number? If so, jot it down or just say it a few times so that you remember after the tapping. I also want you to ask yourself where you feel it in your body, because our emotions aren't just in our head, we feel them in our body. So just feel into your body. Do you have any tension in your throat or tightness in your chest? And how's your breathing? Are you able to take big breaths? Or are your breaths shallow and quick? Just notice what you feel in your body. Okay, so let's start by tapping on the karate chop point on the side of the hand. And just repeat after me with the intent to focus on your specific issue. And we'll go nice and slow. So I'm going to use some general language here, but focus on your specific issue. Just feel into it. So repeating after me, even though I have all this stress in my body, go ahead and repeat that, about this issue, I accept myself anyway. Remember, tapping where I tap, just repeating after me. And don't worry about getting it right. Still on the side of the hand, even though I'm really stressed about everything that's going on, and I feel really overwhelmed, I accept myself and how I'm feeling. Don't worry about how fast or slow you tap. One more time on the side of the hand, even though I have all this stress in my body, just feeling into your body. I accept myself and choose to breathe in this moment. And again, repeating after me, saying what I say, tapping where I tap. Now we're going to go through the points, the rest of the points. So starting on the eyebrow point, the inside of the eyebrow on either side. You can do one side or the other side or both. Remember, you can tap on the inside points of both eyebrows or just one, whatever you prefer. There's no need to pound on any of these points. A firm but light touch works best. So while tapping on the inside eyebrow points, repeat after me. All this stress. Now on the side of the eye, it's right on the bone, not on the temple, on the bone. I'm really stressed about, and then you fill in that blank with your issue. So I'm really stressed about, and fill in that blank. Now under the eye, I'm so sick of this stress. Under the nose, I can't seem to ever get ahead. Under the mouth, so sick of all this stress about money. We'll go to the collarbone point. So feel for the 2 points of the collarbone, and you want to go down an inch and out an inch. Just tap on each side. I like to use all my fingers. So tapping the collarbone, this stressful issue. Then I'm going to go under the arm. It's typically easier to do one side than both here. It's about the bra line for women, about a hand's width underneath for men. All this stress. And then on the last point, it's the top of the head, all this stress in my body. Now we'll go back to the eyebrow point. I'm tired of thinking about money so much. Side of the eye, I just want to be able to live my life. Under the eye, this issue is causing me so much stress. Under the nose, I just can't seem to find a solution. Under the mouth, I'm so tired of all this financial pressure. On the collarbone, I choose to stop and breathe in this moment. Under the arm, acknowledging what I'm feeling right now. Top of the head, and allowing this energy to flow. So now we're going to shift to some more positive language as we continue to release the stress. We always start with the negative, the truth of how we feel, to acknowledge it, to accept it, and to release it. And if you're wondering, why do we always start with the negative? I'll say two things to that. Number one is, as Louise Hay once said to us years ago when we asked her this same question, if you want to clean a house, you have to see the dirt. Let me say that again. If you want to clean a house, you have to see the dirt. You can't just ignore your negative emotions and expect them to go away. When we tap, we're only focusing on them while we tap to release them. The second thing I'll say is that we don't always have to tap on the negative. In my daily practice, if I'm feeling great, I oftentimes go right to the positive tapping. But here's the thing. If you're feeling a negative emotion at a strong level, you can't just go to the positive. If you're angry at a level 8, for example, you can't just say, I choose to be happy, everything's okay. It just won't feel congruent. But you'll notice as you tap on the negative that it will shift and you'll start to think differently and see the situation differently. And you'll know when you can start moving to the positive. I find that if I'm maybe at a 5 or lower on the 0 to 10 scale, that I'm ready to bring in more positive language. Okay, so let's keep going with the positive language. So we're going to go back to the eyebrow point. So tapping on the eyebrow point, repeating after me, I choose to breathe in this moment. Side of the eye, and allow this stress to release. Under the eye, this stress isn't serving me. Under the nose, so I choose to breathe and allow safety into my body. Under the mouth, this stress is no longer serving me. Collarbone point, it's keeping me from finding the answers I need. Under the arm, so I choose to breathe and allow it to release. Back to the top of the head, all I need is within me now. We're going to do one more round, so back to the eyebrow point. I can solve this challenge that I'm facing. Side of the eye, when I allow my body and mind to be calm. Under the eye, I choose to control my emotions rather than allowing them to control me. Under the nose, I can get through any challenge. Under the mouth, by taking it one day at a time. Collarbone, allowing myself to be present in this moment. Under the arm, so that I can use the full resources of my brain. Top of the head, I've got this. Now take a deep breath in and let it go. So how do you feel? It feels good, right? Can you see how important it is for solving problems, for finding your way forward, to be in a better emotional state and not in an emotional state that controls you? So let's go back and measure. So on the intensity scale of 0 to 10, where's your stress now? How has it shifted since you started tapping? And connect with what you started with. And if you're willing, tell me in the comments what you were at before and what you're at after the tapping. And as we moved through the tapping, did you have thoughts pop up? More resourceful thoughts, like maybe you started looking at things differently and your brain started to find solutions? Remember, your brain is a supercomputer that can absolutely bring you to creating whatever you want in life, but you have to be able to control it and not have it control you. And when you have negative emotions revved up, it's like trying to read a book with the TV on, the radio blaring, kids screaming in the background, a fly buzzing around your head. It's just not easy. But when you tap and you calm the noise and you release those negative emotions, those amazing ideas you have can come forward. Now, you might have had a big shift during that, or you may not have. I'd say maybe 95% of the time when we tap, there's a downward shift, big or little, but sometimes it doesn't shift because we're either not specific enough or maybe something else comes up that you need to tap on. So, for example, you might have tapped on your stress about a financial challenge, and then something from your childhood came up, or you realize your relationship is really stressing you out now, or you were thinking about something going on with your kids, or you're worried about retirement in the future. It's always important to note what comes up. I like to actually take a notebook and take notes because sometimes something important will come up, but then later you forget about it. So make sure to actually write it down so you know for later on. Okay. So are you seeing just how impactful your habitual daily emotions are on the daily? Because your habits and your decisions and your ability to think clearly and ultimately your level of success is all driven by this. It's really difficult to stay focused and productive and on track and motivated to achieving big goals and improving your finances if you're living in negative emotions. And it's really difficult to make good financial decisions when you're stressed out. And it's really easy when those emotions are hitting you day after day to just quit and let go of your dreams. Wouldn't you agree? Who else has made poor, I'm raising my hand, who else has made poor financial decisions at time in their life because they were stressed? It's like trying to not eat the pizza or chocolate or whatever else you crave when you're stressed when it's right in front of you. It's just not easy to do. All right, so that was part 1 of 2. Remember, I said that this first part is like the tar on the runway keeping your wheels from spinning, or the jet fuel helping you to go faster and faster. Or to use another metaphor, negative emotions are like putting poison around a plant versus putting fertilizer around it. One will keep your plant wilting, and one will help it grow faster and stronger. And in this case, we're kind of hoping it's a money tree, right?